Welcome to the Ship Happens podcast, a podcast about construction, education, and everything in between. I am your host, Joseph Garibaldi, and I invite you to take a listen to a new and exciting podcast about construction and teaching. Thank you guys. Welcome back to another exciting episode. I'm your host, Joseph Garibaldi. I want to thank you guys for the support I got on my first two episodes. We're in episode 3 right now, and we are rolling pretty well, so everything's going pretty great. I want to talk about a couple things. So I am a new teacher. At the point of recording is 2020, and you will hear this in 2020 more than likely, and this is my second year teaching. Now, I started this podcast, you heard the first episode, but I started this podcast because there was a need for high-quality educational and construction podcasts. There are very high-quality educational podcasts. There are also very high quality construction based podcasts, but there's not really podcasts that are there about teaching construction. So I decided to kind of fill that void as best I possibly could. But when you're a young teacher, new ideas are extremely scary. And I think we forget about the young teachers that bring new, fresh ideas. We either forget about them or we're scared of them. Agriculture teaching is a fabulous profession. It's super rewarding, and it's kind of unique because you have all of the old guard that are still teaching, right? You have 3 generations of teachers easily that are still teaching right now. And I think when the new round of teachers come in, the older teachers and even the middle-ish teachers are very hesitant to take their ideas. And honestly, why would they take their ideas? They're comfortable. They've been doing this for a long time. They don't even lesson plan. Their lessons are already planned from years, even decades of experience until COVID happens. We've seen a complete shift in teaching. I mean, I'm an ag construction teacher. I'm making podcasts and YouTube videos. But we've seen this whole new shift, and it's scary to these old guard of teachers because they have to relearn everything. All their lesson plans have to be completely redone, and they're uncomfortable. I was very lucky when I was student teaching to have a mentor teacher who challenged me to create a shop class that was 100% online. So I have tons of lessons for ag construction and ag mechanics that are all online because I had to teach it online. And it's helped me tremendously adapt to this COVID type of teaching that we have to teach with. But I struggle still with sharing my ideas. I may have good ideas, at least I hope I have good ideas, but I have ideas nonetheless, and I have to try them out. But the problem is that the you don't know what you're talking about mentality kills ideas. I think everyone's ideas is worth a listen, whether or not you have to, or whether or not you take that idea and run with it, or you just say, that's an interesting perspective, I'm going to keep doing it my way. Either way, you still listen to that idea. But I find a lot of young teachers across all disciplines get dismissed all the time if their idea isn't popular, or if it doesn't immediately make sense to whoever they're pitching this idea to. It's all about support and being able to support these young teachers, being able to support teachers in general with their ideas. I'll never forget, I was telling a colleague of mine about starting a YouTube channel. And I said, you know what? I need to get content to kids. I need to make sure these kids have some sort of shop feel. So how am I going to do that? Well, I know these kids want to be in my shop. I mean, in fact, I asked them the first day. I asked them, what do you guys want to do after COVID? And 90% said come back to school. The other 10% said hang out with friends. So I think you can kind of get that at school too. But they want to be back in school. And I think that's incredible. That's insane. So to kind of spur this desire to be back in school, why don't I start recording myself at school, building projects and making things so they can see someone that they know build something, so that when they come back to school, they have something to look forward to, and they have something that's more relatable when they get back to school too. So I spent a lot of time developing videos, filming projects and videos. I may not make any money doing podcasts or videos, but that's not the point. I don't want to make money doing this stuff. I want to give content to kids. I want to give content to my students. I want to make sure my students are taken care of and still get that shop feel that they miss every day. So far, my videos have been very popular with my students. They laugh, they like them. I'm not really paying attention to any comments or anything on them. I really focus on what my students have to say about them, because in reality, it's geared towards them. I may have a fictitious business name that I put all my videos out under, but it's still for my students. And ultimately, this podcast is for my students, and any colleague that wants to listen, anyone that would like to listen to my opinions. That's what this is for. In case you guys haven't picked up yet, my videos kind of bounce. I talk about teaching one week. Next week I'll talk about something construction, agriculture, mechanics based. The next week I'm back to teaching, and so on and so forth. So this week is definitely about teaching and having ideas to share about teaching. But I want to challenge all teachers to think outside the box. Think about something you've never done before. Think about an idea you've had tucked away that you always wanted to try, and try it now. I was telling someone who works in my department, I was telling her, she was worried about failing at something, being overwhelmed and failing. And I said, you know what? The only expectation is for you to log on every day online. No one's expecting a whole lot. So if you choke up that bat and you swing as hard as you can, even if you missed, you still swung. But you always have that chance you're going to hit that ball and knock it out of the park. And I think that's crazy. We can't get rid of that chance because we're afraid about what people think of our ideas. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely afraid about what people think about my ideas. I don't like to share them. And part of it's, I've heard too many times that it's a stupid idea, or the person saying they don't even want to try it. They don't even like it. They dismiss it, or they tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. So sharing my need or my desire to film videos, I was met with a couple different opinions. The biggest one was that they said, well, don't turn into so-and-so. Don't turn into a person who is making things not student focused. And I think that was a very solid advice, because the videos and the content I make are not for me. They're not for an audience. They're for students, and they're for learning. That is the hope, the goal, the dream that I have for this kind of content. I want to share a quick story. Well, it may not be quick, but my first year teaching, I was hired with a close friend of mine. I love this guy. We worked very well together. We understood each other, and we did a lot of cool things together. The second year he left, got a new job, moved on to something else that he was more passionate about, and I completely respect, and I completely respected that decision. And I constantly get asked every day, oh, are you bummed out that he left? What are you going to do? I don't know, Janet, the same thing I always do. Like, I'm going to show up to work. I'm going to teach kids. We taught 2 different subjects, but that's just a huge pet peeve of mine, is that what am I going to do? My job, hopefully. That's kind of the goal. But it's ideas. And the hard part is I have a lot of great ideas, I think. And teachers get afraid to mention those ideas or say it, because you have all these esteemed, veteran, award-winning teachers you teach with that you look up to, and you look up to them for good ideas. And during this time of COVID, they don't have any good ideas. They're stumped just as much as you are, because it's new to them too. It doesn't matter what award you win, we're still having a hard time struggling to figure out how to teach kids effectively. So what did I do? I decided to create my own ideas, and I decided not to tell anyone my ideas. I decided to just do them with my kids and see if they worked. And a lot of my stuff is working. My YouTube videos are very popular. My kids love them. They ask for more of them. That's how these kids this generation learn. They learn through videos. In fact, I should probably start a TikTok channel, but I don't like TikTok as a platform, and this is like me dating myself. I grew up on like Vine and those sort of apps, and TikTok is just a ripoff of that app. So I have a really hard time accepting TikTok as a legitimate platform, but I digress. Anyways, I think that teachers have to adapt. So I've gotten really positive feedback about my podcast, about my YouTube videos, and so I decided, okay, that sticks, so I'm going to keep going. I've tried other things. I've tried interactive assignments that kids have to follow along and log things. That didn't work. That was a failure. But the cool part was that we kind of expect failures this time. We don't expect everyone to be the greatest. We just expect you to try and to think of things. I think all classes can benefit from YouTube videos and creating those vlog-like experiences. Kids don't come to your class necessarily for the curriculum you teach. They come to class for you and even the class itself, depending on the subject. Kids look forward to your class because of you. If you're a teacher out there and you have students that look forward to teaching and you don't already know this, they look forward to seeing you and to hearing what you have to say. And the funny little quirks you have in class, they look forward to that because it's like a sitcom to them. It's like a situational TV comedy that they get to be a part of. So why not film that? Why not film you giving lessons? And the problem is that we like to cut out our mistakes. I mean, I say all the time. And I cut out out. I used to cut out like 100% of my ums. But I learned that stumbling over words and saying kind of keeps it real. You shouldn't cut all of them out. You should leave some in there. It leaves realness to it. And that's an idea. You can run with it, or you can be like, nah, I'm not going to do that, G. But it's what I do. I leave maybe a handful of ums in out of the tons I say, because I struggled thinking of words to say. All this audio you're listening to right now is edited. It's made to sound nice. You know, I have a huge AC behind me that's pumping, not even in my office, just in my classroom. And you can hear it in the raw audio file, but I do my best to edit it out. I edit my voice, so whenever my voice goes in really high pitch, it doesn't actually blow out your ears. I edit my voice so it evens out. If my voice is a little scratchy in the morning, it's going to even out my voice and make it sound constant or the same. So I do a lot to make sure I give quality content. That's really the goal, right? Is to give quality content to students. Having new ideas is something we shouldn't be afraid of. But I learned not to share my ideas, because when you get shot down so many times with your idea that people say it's stupid, you don't actually feel the need to even share anymore. And some people get burnt out with telling their ideas because they feel like they have one that works and no one takes them seriously. That's the hardest part about being a teacher, in my personal opinion, is that we have exciting ideas and we're never taken seriously. I want to bring up a statistic for you guys. In the United States, the average age of teachers are 42 years old. In fact, 1 out of 2 teachers are between the ages of 30 and 49 years old. 15% of teachers are less than 30 years old. 18% of teachers are 55 years old or more. That's crazy to me. If you're a teacher and you're listening to this, you're probably young, right? But I have a good chance if you're a teacher, you're between the ages of 30 and 50 years old. That's a high statistic, right? Now understand that's 20 years, so that's a generation. So if you have about 2-3 generations that you're teaching with, current to 30 years, 15% that you'll be like your millennials. 30 to 49 years, you're still in that millennial / not millennial phase, right? 50 to 54 years, you're more into that Gen X, maybe baby boomer type of generation. 55 or more years, you're definitely in that baby boomer category. And for some reason, my generation, millennials, they like to argue with baby boomers. Gen Z even more so likes to argue with baby boomers. And I think that's crazy. It's crazy to me that there's such a divide, and I don't know why. We had teachers that teach basic flashcards, and then you have teachers like me who are teaching with Kahoot and using Nearpod and Quizlet to teach students. What one works? Flashcards, yeah, are time-tested, tried and true methods of teaching, but is that how you're going to connect with kids? Because we've reached the point where teaching isn't all about effectiveness. I mean, it is, but it's also about connection. If we connect with students, we're going to be more effective. I can teach tools by flashcards. I can show a picture of a tool. They can flip it around and see what it is. I can teach tools that way. But I can teach it better. I can connect better if I teach tools by filming myself using them. By showing this tool in use so they can figure out, 1, what that tool is used for, 2, the tool's name, and 3, is there any other tool like that? They make that connection to other tools. There's tons of different saws for wooden, metal, anything. There's tons of different saws. If they see a circular saw, which is what we use for framing, versus a miter saw, they may see very similar traits in both those saws. Even a table saw, they may be like, wow, a table saw is basically a circular saw upside down. That's amazing. That's usually something I would have to tell them, but if they see the saws in action, they understand that. Yeah, a table saw is just a mounted circular saw that has a big flat table, just like a router. If you take a router, it's how you get those round edges and so many more bits, but it's just a think of like a Dremel. It's a rotary tool that spins at a very high speed and spins a drill bit. They see a router and like, oh, I can use a router standing upright, or I can flip it upside down and use it on a table and get way more use out of it. Flashcards work great. But when I try to give an idea, hey, flashcards are fantastic, but have you seen this thing called Quizlet? It's just like flashcards, but it's online. You can shuffle them. You can give audio files in there and have them flip around and give them, you can test them on it. You can do games on it. You can do crazy stuff that kids absolutely love. And I get teachers who say, no, that's a dumb idea. Thank you, though. That's a dumb idea, though. And you're just like, damn, okay, like, guess I'm just gonna go back to my room and just sit there But my kids perform better utilizing content that they can relate with. And that's proven. That's true, right? Kids do way better with content that is for them. In fact, I'm looking at ways to get away from traditional notes. Students need to take notes. I want to give you a disclaimer on this. I think notes are very useful. The way I learn is by writing down the important things to go back on and learn. But I want to get away and find a new method for note taking. I think apps like OneNote and Notability and those sort of apps are fantastic, and they give you so much more of a connection to students, because then I can be like, hey, look at this text, right? I want you to pick out the topics of this text, right? Or what this text is about. I want you to find indicator sentences or something in that text that tells you exactly what it's about, or at least gives you the topic of what it's about. And I want you to take notes on that text to make sure you tell me exactly what topic is. So what kids will do is they'll take the text. If they're using OneNote or whatever, they can highlight that text, rope around, cut virtually, quotations, cut that piece of text out, that sentence, drag it into their notes, and take notes on that one sentence they're using. And I think it's incredible. That's literally insane to me that we have the ability to take more efficient notes that connects students with the content. But we don't use that. Now, don't get me wrong. I've tried to use OneNote in college, and I've tried to use OneNote to take notes, and it's very difficult. You have to have a teacher that is teaching specifically for OneNote, because you're not going to be quick enough to get what that teacher's saying versus a pencil, especially since we don't teach typing in school. We're not really good typers, so we need to figure out a better way. We saw a big shift, by the way, going from, I know a lot of schools, my high school included, I wasn't actually in that class, it was literally the next one, they taught with tablets like iPads, and I thought that was way more of a useful tool than Chromebooks. However, when we look at the power of a Chromebook and what we need to get done and the durability and the cost, it was better for a Chromebook than an iPad. But I think in terms of content creation and getting kids connected, an iPad holds way more power than a Chromebook. Having something they can physically touch and manipulate and move around is beyond helpful. But I also understand that there are costs associated with things. Kids are not the most, how do I say, careful with those sort of things. So things get broken, and it's way cheaper to replace a Chromebook than an iPad. But that's a struggle we face as teachers, is that there are so much good out there. There are so much good ideas, but we're limited because we have other people who maybe not think that is a good idea or doesn't want to venture out or take that risk or take that leap. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I have this idea I've been sitting on. I have this idea for notes or this idea for flashcards, this website I want to use it. Use it. This is the time to use it. This is the time to try everything out, lay out all your chips, go all in and use it, because no one is expecting greatness right now. They're expecting you to log into Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, and talk to kids. So you're going to log in, you're going to talk to kids, but how are you going to connect with kids? If I can leave you guys with a challenge, I want to leave you guys with a challenge. We need to connect to these kids. We need to connect to our students. If you're teaching a hands-on class, you're even more important. I'll be real honest with you. I was afraid of if my job will be here next year. I still am afraid. I'm not tenured yet. I still am afraid. I'm easy to cut, right? We don't need to work on a wood shop. They're expensive. We don't need that. And I'm afraid I may not have a job. I may not have a teaching job next year that I can rely on or teach students. And it really scares me, if we're being honest. So being faced with this in the summer and finally coming to grips that we're probably not going back to school, even though they said we were, but look at us now, we're not. We're probably not going back to school. So how do I create value for my shop and my position? So I came up with so many ideas. I listened to people. I listened to several people actually say that we should record videos, but it was almost in a joke. They were almost joking about it. Like, we should record videos of us welding, or we should record videos of us building something. And they laughed. And at that point, I was like, damn, that's a good idea. I should do that. I should film videos of what I'm doing. My videos are less of a tutorial, but more of a feel, right? More of a, okay, this is how I work in my shop. This is what I do. These are the stuff I build. It's less of a tutorial, more of a connection that I'm trying to build, a bridge I'm trying to build for students to watch. And I still struggle with it. I still do. I do a podcast every week. I do a video every week. Sometimes the videos are short. Sometimes they're long. It really just depends on what I am doing in my shop the prior week that I want to film. The podcasts are a little bit more structured. I have a list of episode titles, the stuff I want to talk about. I have way more episodes planned and way more topics. In fact, today is September 3rd, 2020. Episode 1 just got published yesterday, September 2nd. And you're not going to hear this episode until the middle of September because the way publishing works, the way I have everything planned out. You don't need to watch it in order. You can just pick one depending on the title that you like, and that's all you need. I think making a connection is the most important thing, and being accepting of ideas is equally as important. We need to listen to our peers regardless of their age and experience. We need to give them the time of day because honestly, they have good ideas. We shouldn't laugh at their ideas. We shouldn't talk down to their ideas. We should be open, listen, regardless if we want to use them or not. You owe it to them to just listen to them. You owe it to these young, new teachers to listen to what they have to say. That is all I ask, is just for you guys to listen. And honestly, you're going to find things that you like. And there's nothing more that I like more than people asking questions about what I do because they want to do it. I hope more people start podcasting. I hope more people start filming videos. I don't want them to feel like they're stepping on my toes by doing it because that's not the point. The point is that I want people to interact with their classes just like they normally would, but in a digital environment. Because that's what these kids deserve. That's what these kids absolutely deserve. I need to set up a Twitter account, I think, for this show because I want people to start tweeting me and asking questions and getting that sort of thing. So look out for the Chip Happens Twitter account. It's coming soon. That being said, I want to thank you guys for listening. The outro is going to be on in about a minute, but I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Please let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you all. This has been an episode of the Chip Happens podcast. Thank you all for listening, and I will catch you next week with another exciting episode.